Well, hello guys, welcome back to my channel. And today I have an interesting infinite sum for you guys. So, as always, let's get to it. So, we have, as I suggested, an infinite sum, let's call it I, being defined as the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of sine of k divided by k. And this is not sinc but sine of k. See, that's much better now. So, we have a sine of k in the numerator and a k in the denominator. If we did not have a sine of k, we would just end up with the harmonic series, right, which diverges. But we have, because of this sine of k, apparently this is going to converge. That's why we have this problem in the first place. If this did not converge, I would not make this video. So now we know that converting our trigonometric functions into their exponential definitions will make most calculations easy, because then you can just split stuff easily and then do calculus or algebra or anything way easily. So as I uh, showed you in my last video, well, not last video exactly again, but one of my videos, sine x can be written as e raised to ix minus e raised to negative ix divided by 2I. This is basically using Euler's formula. E raised to ix is equal to cosine of x plus I times the sine of x. So, and then if you have an e raised to negative ix is cosine of x minus I times sine of x, you subtract the second equation from the first equation and you divide by 2I, you end up with a sine x. You may pause the video and try it on a piece of paper if you want. So let's plug this definition of the sine inside. So now we have the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of e raised to ik. We had an x in the definition, but originally we have a k. So e raised to ik minus e raised to negative ik divided by 2I, and this can be very easily split into two different sums. One is the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of e raised to ik, and don't forget the k in the denominator, divided by 2ik minus the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of e raised to negative ik divided by 2ik. So I is basically the difference of two sums. So let's evaluate them separately. Let's call this I1, and the second part is along with the negative I2. So our grand equation now is I is equal to I1 plus I2 because we took the negative sign along with the entire I2 expression. So let's do I1 now on a separate page. See you there. So I1 now is basically 1 over 2I, because that's a constant in the entire sum, times the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of e raised to ik divided by k. Now look first, observation is very important in mathematics. Now on observation, is there any Taylor series or any other known series that we can convert our sum into? Well, if you think hard enough, or if you have a table of Taylor series just kept beside you, and you're like glancing through it, and you this certainly strikes you, then indeed we can, because we can rewrite this as 1 over 2i times the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of e raised to I, the whole thing to the kth power, divided by k. So is there any Taylor series where you have a variable to the power of the index divided by the index? Well, if you think hard enough, you might recall that the Taylor series for the natural log of 1 over x is nothing but the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of negative 1 to the k plus 1th power times the variable x to the kth power divided by k. So we have a variable to the kth power. So if we were to replace x with say 1 e to the ith power, for example, we would obtain the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of negative 1 to the k plus 1th power times e raised to I, the whole thing raised to k, divided by k. So basically now our numerators are essentially matching. We just have to get rid of this alternating part in our original I1 expression. We need to Here we need to get rid of the alternating part, but in our original expression we need to introduce that, right? So that we can directly plug evaluate our I1 to be some multiple times the natural log of 1 plus e to the ith power. So let's try to fix this alternating part. So now I1 is basically 1 over 2i and the sum from k equals 1 to infinity. We need to fix an alternating so we need to fix negative 1 to the k plus 1th power. So first let's think about fixing negative 1 to the kth power. We can multiply by negative 1 to obtain the k plus 1 later, and we have e raised to I uh, to the kth power divided by k. But since we are introducing negative 1 to the kth power, to maintain equality we'll also have to multiply by negative 1 to the kth power. You know why? Because negative 1 to the kth power twice, or negative 1 to the kth power squared, or negative 1 to the 2kth power, is negative 1 to the second power, which is 1 to the kth power. 1 to the kth power, 1 to any power is 1. So on multiplication these two things are just going to become 1. So great, we can on multiplication we can revert back to our I1. So this equality holds now. So I1 is basically 1 over 2i times the sum from k equals 1 to infinity. Well, we have a negative 1 to the kth power outside. Why don't we take negative 1 and e raised to I under a common power? So we'll have negative 1 times e raised to I, the whole thing to the kth power, divided by k. Well, we have negative 1 to the kth power fixed. Now we need another negative 1 to make the entire this alternating part negative 1 to the k plus 1th power. So why don't we multiply and divide by negative 1? So we'll have negative 1 over 2i times the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of negative 1 to the k times negative 1, and we have negative e raised to I to the kth power divided by k, and this you can simplify to negative 1 to the 2i, negative 1 over 2i, sorry, negative 1 divided by 2i times the sum k equals 1 to infinity. Now let's use some properties of exponents. We'll have negative 1 to the k plus 1th power times negative e raised to I raised to k divided by k. And now only now this fits well with the Taylor series of our natural log of 1 over x, 1 plus x. So natural log of 1 plus x, as I said, is sum from k equals 1 to infinity of negative 1 to the k plus 1th power times x to the kth power divided by k. So it's 1 plus this variable that was raised to the kth power. Now what's raised to the kth power? Negative e raised to I, right? So basically our I1 is now going to be negative 1 to the 2i times the natural log of 1 plus the variable that was raised. What's raised? Negative e raised to I. So that is basically our expression for I1. Let's do I2 with a similar approach now. So what's I2? I2 is basically, well, we can take the 1 over 2i, negative 1 over 2i. The negative was, included that in I2, times the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of, well, we have e raised to negative I times k divided by k. Well, we can write this as negative 1 over 2i times the sum from k equals 1 to infinity e raised to negative I, the whole thing raised to the kth power divided by k. So now again, as I1, we want to introduce an alternating part so that we can write this in terms of a natural log function. So we'll have negative 1 over 2i times the sum from k equals 1 to infinity of, well, we can multiply by negative 1 to the k, because multiplying negative 1 to the k 2 times will be just negative 1 squared to the kth power. Negative 1 squared is 1. 1 to the kth power, as I said, is 1. So we have e raised to negative I to the kth power divided by k, and this becomes negative 1 to the 2i times sum from k equals 1 to infinity of negative 1 to the k as it is. We can take negative 1 to the k and this negative 1 to the k and e raised to negative I under a common power. So negative e raised to negative I, everything is to the kth power divided by k, and we need a plus 1, right? So let's multiply and divide by a negative. So we have negative 1 over 2i divided by, like, the fraction is basically divided by another negative 1. We have sum from k equals 1 to infinity negative 1 to the k times negative 1 times negative e raised to negative I to the kth power divided by k. Well, these negatives out front are going to cancel out, so we'll just have 1 over 2i times sum from k equals 1 to infinity. Now using some exponent properties, negative 1 to the k plus 1th power times negative e raised to negative I to the kth power divided by k. So now this again perfectly fits the definition of a natural log of 1 over x, a Taylor series basically. And as I said, that's sum from k equals 1 to infinity of negative 1 to the k plus 1th power times x to the k divided by k. So now variable to the kth power, or rather the variable that was raised, that's basically inside the natural log. So 1 plus the variable that was raised, natural log of that. So now we can write, this was I2, we can write our I2 according to this formula here as 1 over 2i as it is, and instead of this entire term we can now write a natural log of, well, what was raised, negative e raised to negative I was raised, right? So 1 plus negative e to the negative I, so 1 minus e to the negative I. So, well, great, we found our value of I2. Now, we know I1, we know I2. Let's just plug everything together in our grand equation. So let's do that on a fresh page as always. See you there. So we had our grand equation being I equals I1 plus I2, and we know our I1. So I is going to be, we know I1, it's exactly -1 over 2I times the natural log of 1 minus e to the ith power plus 1 over 2I, that's I2. We're plugging in I2 now. 1 over 2I times the natural log of 1 minus e to the negative ith power. So let's just factorize out this 1 over 2I, and therefore we'll obtain natural log of 1 minus e to the negative ith power minus the natural log of 1 minus e to the ith power. Well, we can use some log properties now. So we know that the natural log of a minus the natural log of b can be expressed as the natural log of a divided by b. So I'm going to use that property. We have 1 over 2I as a common factor times the natural log of 1 minus e to the negative I divided by 1 minus e to the ith power. Well, I want to convert this negative exponent in the numerator into a positive exponent, and the way I do that is 1 minus 1 over e to the I over 1 minus e to the ith power. We can clean this up further. 1 over 2I times the natural log, cross multiplying e raised to I minus 1 divided by this e raised to I will come down, e raised to I times e raised to I times 1 minus e raised to I, our original denominator basically. And now I is basically, now notice that the numerator and denominator are basically negatives of each other. Or if you want to see clearly, I'll write 1 over 2I times the natural log of negative 1 minus e to the I, just factored a negative in the numerator, divided by e to the I times 1 minus e to the I. Well, now they beautifully are going to cancel out here, and we have I is equal to 1 over 2I times the natural log of negative, because we factorize that out, negative 1 over e to the ith power. So we have 1 over 2I times the natural log of negative. Using some properties of exponents, we can write e raised to I, 1 over e raised to I as e raised to negative I, as a negative exponent. Now for those of you who are wondering, how the hell is there a negative inside a natural log? Well, a natural log will only have a positive argument if we're only talking about real numbers. But here when we have negative e raised to negative I, it's but obvious that we are dealing with the complex numbers. So it's the principal log as it is can have a negative argument if we are dealing with complex numbers. So we can now, if you know, the natural log of a times b is equal to natural log of a plus the natural log of b. So we can just split out the negative. We have natural log of negative 1 plus natural log of e raised to negative I. Well, what's negative 1 exactly? Well, we can use our Euler's formula, e raised to I theta is equal to cosine of theta plus I times the sine of theta. Well, when theta is equal to pi, so we have e raised to I pi is equal to, well, what's cosine of pi? Negative 1. And what's sine of pi? 0. So negative 1 can be written as e raised to I pi. And you might know that e raised to I pi plus 1 is equal to 0, and this is what's called the most beautiful formula in mathematics. So that's where we get the negative 1 from. So we have 1 over 2i, the common factor, and instead of a negative 1, why don't we plug in e raised to I pi, and here we have the natural log of e raised to negative I. So now let's remember this interesting property of logs. So we have, say, you can have any arbitrary base. Here let's talk about natural logs only. A to the power b, this can be written as b times the natural log of a. So basically you are bringing the power down and then multiplying that with the entire log term. So we have 1 over 2i, and then we're bringing down the I pi times the natural log of the base, still natural log of e. Same thing here, we're bringing down the negative I, so we have negative I times the natural log of e. But what's the natural log of e? 1. This goes to 1, this goes to 1, and finally we have 1 over 2i times I pi minus I. So multiplying everything, we have I pi over 2i minus I divided by 2i. Well, i's will beautifully cancel out, giving us I is equal to pi over 2 minus half. If you want to write this is pi minus 1, the entire thing divided by 2. So it's a pretty neat, very elegant answer. And again the pi just drops in randomly. Well, for some of you might think that since we were dealing with circular trigonometric functions, we had a sign in our original problem, that a pi or a pi related term was kind of expected, so that we shouldn't be surprised, I guess. But all in all, it's a really nice answer. So what did we learn in today's video? We learned that we had a problem I, infinite sum from k equals 1 to infinity of sine of k divided by k, and I'll bracket the k so that you don't think that it's sinc, it's sine of k. Well, this, by converting the sine into its exponential definition and then trying to somehow convert each of the two sums that we obtain into a natural logy form, we end up with pi minus 1 divided by 2. And the interesting thing is, well, if we did not have a sign in the numerator, we say just had 1, then this would diverge. But the fact that we have a sign actually makes this series converge to pi minus 1 divided by 2. And if you want an approximation, I'll give it to you. This is about 0. Well, this is about 1.0707. But the most interesting fact was, having the sign in the numerator just made the series converge, because without the sign, if you had just a single 1 on top, this would definitely diverge, right? Because harmonic series. So it's the best part about these infinite series is small changes to divergent series can actually make them convergent. So, even the case where we had a sum from uh, n equals 1 to infinity of 1 over n, basically harmonic series is divergent. But if you square it, if you have 1 over n squared, so I'll just fun fact, that if you had the series from n equals 1 to infinity of 1 over n, this would diverge, right? But if you just square it now, series from n equals 1 to infinity of 1 over n squared, well, this converges, right? And we actually know this answer to this, pi squared over 6. So just a small change, in this case squaring, or even if, like our problem now, if we have a series from n equals 1 to infinity, instead of a 1, if we write sine of n over n, basically our problem I, even that converges. So these small changes can make a divergent series converge. So that's a really interesting observation. So that's it for this video, guys. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Recommend me to your mathophile, numberphile friends who, or others who might be interested in learning this kind of math. And I have to make a quick announcement. I'll be actually resuming my high school calculus playlist videos. So please leave suggestions in the comment section what area specifically you want me to cover. We'll be basically starting with the rules of differentiation, basically the product rule, the quotient rule, the chain rule, all those other rules that are quite necessary if we want to do something substantial in calculus. So stay home, stay safe, enjoy your day, peace out.